Hello, class. My name is Mike Dutton, and right now I will be recapping the HR simulation efforts for my company, Explosives R Us. And first, I would like to explain the rationale behind the relatively generic name and the nature of the company. Because this is an HR class, I wanted to just hit the ground running and focus on learning. So I picked a generic name for a company in an industry that closely resembled what I do for a living. So I would have an already assembled framework for my company. So with that, let's move on to Explosives are strategic goals versus the actual outcomes. Beforehand, I'd like to also apologize for the. I'm trying to get this software all figured out and everything, and I can't get the PowerPoint to work the way I want it to. So if you guys could just bear with me. So moving on. As we can see from here, my first year goals and strategies were pretty in line with someone new to the program. The lofty goal of wage increases to 16% turned out to be very expensive, so monitoring that growth in smaller increments during the quarters that seemed like the more achievable strategy of my year two goal, which was to keep the wages above industry norms. Safety and quality were always concerns early on, but I didn't address them until the wages and benefits were secured. I did this because I wanted to fix certain problems first and see if they would impact other areas. For instance, I thought that the morale issue would be fixed with higher wages and benefits, and that would carry over to happier employees and better work. Turns out that's not the case. But adding safety and quality training did keep the employees happier, and it reduced turnover at the same time. Basically, improved the quality and safety metrics. The only drawback was that my unit labor costs were consistently higher than the competition's, and that was kind of a recurring theme throughout the project. The year two goals and budget were a bit more in line with the reality of the scenario, and while my overall budget was increased, I didn't want to push it, so that required taking basically an honest look at where the bulk of the spending was going, and then to increase the amounts of other things like benefits and special programs to keep them consistent and on track. We can see the actual performance on the next slide. Three areas of this graph stand out as vastly improved from the start, particularly my absenteeism, accident rates, and grievances. They all seem to trend downward in significant amounts. This can be attributed to the enhanced training programs and the wage/benefits increases. Quality index and morale went up consistently too, meaning the training measures and benefits programs they showed pretty consistent results. And I would like to think that that was the reason that my budget got um, increased during year two. I don't know if anybody else's did. It'd be interesting to know. I would have liked to see the quality index perform much better in the long term, but we did have consistent improvements. While the in small increments is still noteworthy, it's still something, right? And moving on to the next slide, we're going to cover the other areas and metrics that were measured during this course. Unit labor cost remained high during the simulation. That little block was always red. And as a result, I experienced a lot of employee overages. And if I were to do it over again, I would have spread the training costs and benefits cost out a little bit longer or over a longer period of time in order to maintain a more manageable growth rate. Female and minority hiring initiatives were doubled at the very start of the program, and then I basically left them alone until year two and quarter three when they started flagging. I doubled the numbers again, and I'm pretty sure we would have seen that metric improve next year. What else we got? I doubled the numbers. Excuse me. After I initiated the official grievances, they poured in. When I initiated the program, they poured in like I knew that they would. I kind of anticipated that at the start. However, the grievances continued to trend upwards, and that's probably because I started doing all my level 2, 3, 4 and 5 hiring from within, to save money, and the grievances continued. I would assume that that's going to be the main reason behind that metric taking a dive. But I'll take that as a mark of both an efficient grievance process and basically the pains of growth. So, if we were into the future, I would see that probably get better over time. And to kind of fix that immediately, we can maybe some absolute new hires from outside the company within the next year. With that high unit labor cost, though, also comes the number one ranks in morale and turnover, and the number two ranks in accidents and quality index, which I'm pretty happy with. Overall, those were kind of my goals that I was focused on, and especially after watching that Frontline documentary, I'm sure that kind of left a mark on everybody too. And adding to these great scores were some of the special decisions that were presented during the scenario. And we're going to address that on the next slide. For the safety issues, that's my dog, everybody. Say hi, Nala. For the safety issues decision, I can read this out to you. I chose to have a consulting company come and inspect the facility and make recommendations and adjustments. Keeping the facility in compliance is a key concern, as such new eyes could help shore up any unnoticed items. Work areas with safety officer will be briefed at the end of the report and adjust operations accordingly. And this was just all in part to stay in compliance with government regulations. I felt this is something that I feel personally. If I owned the company, I would really want to take that into consideration, as at least setting a high precedence for that. And having a special team come out and highlight areas to make an efficient use of the in-house safety staff was a very important step for the company. As for the second decision, that regarded employee health and wellness programs. I chose the mental health program at a cost of 0.11% to the payroll. This was decided to not only curb the problems started, but curb the bad trend and the grievances within the company. I figured that would be a good way to curb that metric as well. With the program dedicated to mental health and behavioral issues and substance abuse, it is possible that employees will find themselves in a better emotional state to handle the stresses at work in a better way. I think as a society, we're making important steps regarding mental health awareness. My current employer, the U.S. Air Force, has been initiating a lot of programs aimed at curbing the shockingly high suicide and substance abuse rates. substance abuse rates that the branch is seeing. This is all from the 20 years of continuous conflict and deployments and whatever else. And I think when the company takes this seriously, it makes for a better and more supportive environment. Somewhere you're going to want to stick around a lot more too. So things like you can measure that in metrics, but it's just all things that I would take personally. Since more is being required of the average airman or the airwoman, it is key that the company require more of its own programs. So this will kind of hit home with me again, and if I'm ever in a position to lobby for better mental health programs in any company or in any HR simulation, I will do so. Now we can go on to the future. I feel like I have left the company on a good path that, obviously it's going to require some maintenance, but all the metrics were trending in the right directions, and I feel the framework is solid. This being said, they only need to find someone with about half my talent if they want to see this amazing house that I built flourish. That's just a little pat on the back. What did I take from this experience? I was reminded again that my own competitive nature kind of kicked in quickly. I got to admit, this was one of the funnest things I got to do this semester. Not even trying to say that for extra points. It's really it shocked me, and I was always Sunday rolls around. I was always happy to check my metrics, and it was almost like a game, and it was pretty fun. But also, I did it to make my whole focus on this was to make happier employees. I really didn't care about the cost per unit metric as much as I probably should have. This is because I learned that overages are a direct result of making sure that all employees are taken care of. In that, the more you spend on these programs, the more the company's going to be spending on each employee, for work, and the cost of the actual unit cost actually starts going up. due to these things, and that is going to lead to having to let some employees go. And obviously, that's not fair to everyone. If you wanted to, employ and make as many people happy as possible, that kind of goes out the door when they go out the door. So maybe next time or in any kind of thing like this, I might try to balance each metric a little bit more equally and not be concerned with making everyone happy. I mean, I've been in management for about 10 years now, and anybody will know that trying to make everyone happy all the time is just never a good strategy. That is an uphill battle that you are probably not going to win. And, just ask the hypothetical people that I had to lay off. So I think taking into account each metric and how it relates to the other was the biggest eye opener for me. And one lesson that I could continue to improve upon. So, next time. All right, everyone, thanks for listening to me, and best of luck to everyone out there.